Welcome to TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our longtime producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at TalkNorthPodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on the show, Steve. Should be a good one. Thanks for having me, Steven.
Double X anytime, man.
Christopher Mando Russo here. You are listening to Steven Strom on TalkNorth.com.
Always passionate, always fiery. You're listening to the Strom Sports Show. Take it away, Steven.
It is great to have you with us today on a beautiful Sunday morning. Welcome into the Strom Sports Show here, episode 74. My name is Steven Strom. Hope you're doing well today. We've got an action-packed show for you. Very excited to get into everything. We've got senior writer for Lions.com, Tim Twentyman. Yes, he's got one of the greatest names in sports media history, Tim Twentyman. He'll come on talk about the Vikings-Lions game. Vikes should handle them pretty easily. Pretty big favorites at home. We've got the three-word game. That's officially back for every Minnesota professional sports team right now. The Vikings, Twins, Wolves, Wild, 3 words. Give you the description. We'll get into that later in the show. NFL picks as always. And if you want to advertise with us, contact Jim Suhan on TalkNorth.com. Also, big shout out to my producer, Brandon Morton, and Matt Augusta. Okay, so Gopher season, obviously, not playing this weekend. Hurts. I thought about it all week, man. It would have been so cool if the Gophers would have gotten into the Big Ten championship. Just had a shot at Ohio State, just so we could dream just a little bit. You beat Ohio State as a one-loss team. You're getting into the college football playoff. You saw what happened with Utah this weekend. But it's just, it does stink because the Gophers had every opportunity, and you don't know if they're going to get this opportunity the way the schedule lays out, the way injuries plan out. Let's be honest. This was the perfect season. And I think the big question for a lot of Gopher fans at this point is, was this a successful season? Do you consider this Gopher football team a success? And I think you can look at it a couple of different ways because obviously from the beginning of the season, if you would have told me, is 10-2 a successful season? You would say yes, but a lot of times you have to let things unfold, right? Like you want to figure out, what was the schedule like? What were the teams like at the time? And I think when you look at that at the end of the season, like you do now, and you say, is this a success or not? I don't know, because you had 3 good teams on your schedule, and you beat one of them. You went 1-2. You beat Penn State, and you lost to Iowa, game you should have won, and you lost to Wisconsin. You got annihilated at home in a big spot. So I think it's hard for me to kind of make this decision because in the beginning of the year, once again, you tell me that we're 10-2. You tell me that the P.J. Fleck and Tanner Morgan put up these numbers, and Rashad Bateman and Tyler Johnson in the defense, that they go 10-2. I tell you, oh my God, that would be a dream. I would sign up for it in a second. But I think when you look back at this season, the Gophers were good, but they were not good enough. There will be no trip to Indianapolis to play Ohio State for the Big Ten Conference Championship. There will be no Rose Bowl, which was kind of the backup plan, which pretty good damn backup plan to go to the Rose Bowl if you don't get to the Big Ten Championship, if you don't get to the college football playoff. There's no more talk of possible greatness. The Gophers beat 9 of the teams they should have beaten and added a signature win against Penn State. Then they lost to their 2 biggest rivals. I get it. Gopher fans, you can applaud the season. But that's just more because of how rare seasons like this are. I mean, let's be honest. When was the last time the Gophers have won double-digit games? When was the last time they played a game for the Big Ten Championship at home against Wisconsin? I mean, I get it. Like, Gopher fans can definitely applaud this season. And I'm applauding it, too, just because of the growth and I think where the program is headed and how P.J. Fleck has kind of flipped the script. Yeah, it's been an easier schedule. You still got to win games. But I think when you look at this Gopher season, you might applaud it because of how rare it's really been to have success here. I mean, if you're under the age of 60, and that is my dad, that is obviously me, and I think that's a lot of the audience, you've kind of been suffering. I mean, this program has reeked for most of your lifetime. They haven't played in the Rose Bowl since 1962. This is the first time they've won double-digit games in God knows when. I mean, they were bringing up statistics from 1940s. They were showing the schedule at that time. Minnesota was playing high school teams. They were playing North Minneapolis Central. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous how rare and how long it's been that it's been a 10-win season. Like, look, I get it. Like 10 wins is very impressive. Double-digit wins, not easy to do. But even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes, right? Like Kentucky last year was a surprise team. They came out of nowhere. You look at Baylor. There are programs that you can kind of there's you get a schedule like the Gophers get, and you take advantage of it. But here's the thing: why I wouldn't call it a success fully. Do I think it was a failure? No. Do I think it's a success? No. I think it's kind of in the middle. I think it's like a good but not good enough. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. I think they were a solid team, but I don't think they were great enough to beat the Iowas and the Wisconsins. And here's the frustrating part. This was the year to do it, right? To accomplish more than the 10-win season. There was no Ohio State on the schedule. There was no Michigan. There was no Michigan State. Ohio State you'd have to play in the Big Ten Conference Championship, obviously. But you look at next season, just kind of take a peek ahead and flip the page. Well, the 2020 season, they consist of Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, Wisconsin. You think they're going to be in the same situation that they are now? It's very similar, and I think these two seasons are eerily similar, actually, between the Minnesota Twins and the Gophers, right? Both teams kind of came out of nowhere. You saw the budding potential, but they couldn't put everything together, right? Like the Twins made it to the wild card next year. They missed the playoffs. They hired a new manager. You don't really know what direction they're headed into. You know what they're trying to do. Kind of same thing with the Gophers. PJ Fleck, year 3. You're kind of sitting there, okay, this is kind of his year to take off. College coaching, it's a lot different. You get there. Your first year, you have to instill your culture, right? Your second year, you get your recruits in. And then your third year, you're putting those two things together and finally starting to get success. Very similar seasons, right? Came out of nowhere. Twins win the AL Central. Everyone had the Indians. Came out of nowhere. Gophers win 10 games, come out of nowhere, and have a chance to go to the Big Ten Championship, right? But here's the common theme in a lot of these situations, not even within the two teams. It's when a team of Minnesota, Vikings, Wild, Timberwolves, Twins, Gophers, when they get to the big stage and they get to a team that is a little bit better than them, but they're home, and there's been multiple situations that I can think of where even if the team is better than you, you win occasionally, right? It seems like every time the Twins go play the Yankees, they lose. Not seems, they do. They get swept. They're the little brother to the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees kind of flick them away. They're like, they're an annoying fly. They just say, all right, listen. Anytime they want to kind of turn it on, they'll turn it on. Twins take a lead. Game 1, Yankees turn it on. Wear out the pitching, right? Gophers throw the first punch against Wisconsin up 7-0, and then Wisconsin wears them down, runs it down their throats. No. You beat us last year. This is our Big Ten West. And I think, to go back to our original question, was this season a success or not? I really just don't think I can sit and tell you that this was a complete success. I think that the proper word for this season is progress. I really do. I think PJ Fleck has overcame some things. I think that they've had fortunate scheduling this year. And there's zero doubt in my mind that PJ Fleck is turning this program around. I really believe it. But I just don't know how this season is going to be remembered, because for me, 2019 Gopher football is the season of missed opportunity. In a season where you don't have Ohio State on your regular season schedule. You don't have Michigan. You don't have these big dogs. You had a couple of games within Wisconsin, Iowa, and Penn State, and those were the last 3 of the 4 games. You had a cupcake schedule leading up to it. You really weren't licking your wounds a lot. This was a season of missed opportunities. Yes, there was progress. Yes, there's a bright side looking forward with Gopher football. Yes, PJ Fleck has turned the program around. But when I look back at this 2019 season, I see a season of missed chances and probably a season where you're not going to get as favorable as a schedule as you got. And let's be honest, timing's a lot of things, right? Northwestern made it to the Big Ten Conference Championship 2 years ago. They won 1 game this year, 2 games, right? Rutgers just hired Greg Schiano. They're not going to be as bad. I can guarantee they're not going to be as bad as they were. What about Maryland? Are they going to be as bad? I mean, the Gophers really took advantage of a brutal schedule they had their Super Bowl win, which was Penn State, and I was worried after that game they weren't going to be able to keep up. And once they won that Penn State game, it was full on. Hey, we got to start talking Big Ten championship. We got to start talking playoff. And that's where my analogies have come in the last few shows, that this is an economy program that was flying first class. And that's what it was. And before that, I don't even know if the Gophers were economy. But they're there now. And I think they can continue to build. And I think one day, and I think in the next few years, you're going to start hearing Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. And I think those 6 teams, when you hear that out loud, I don't think it's going to make you think twice about it and raise an eyebrow and say, whoa, I get the first 5 teams. But what did you say about Minnesota? I don't think it's going to be a crazy thing to say. And I don't think it's going to be crazy that the Gophers can win the Big Ten West eventually. But for this year, this was a season of missed opportunity. Yes, there was progress. This was a season of missed possibility. Do I appreciate the dreaming that we did the entire season? 100%, because we were dreaming, right? Had a chance to play Ohio State. You win that game somehow, some way, you end up in Miami in the college football playoff. The Gopher season was very fun this year, but it will be remembered as a season of a missed opportunity. Tim Twentyman, Detroit Lions senior writer. He's up next. Stick with us. And joining the show now is Tim Twentyman. He is the senior writer for Lions.com. One of the greatest names in the sports biz, by the way. He joins us now to help preview the Lions-Vikings game. Tim, Steven Strom here of TalkNorth.com. How's everything?
Good. How's it going? Hey, if you come up with a joke for my last name I haven't heard, I'll be pretty impressed. Let's just put that.
Yeah, well, it is really just an amazing last name. Let's first start with this Lions team. I've got a buddy. He's one of my best friends. He's a diehard Detroit fan, including a Lions fan. Kind of just stuck in this mediocrity right now. What is next just for this Lions team? Stafford's going into his 12th year next year. He obviously was hurt this year, 31 years old. What's the plan for Detroit moving forward? Is Patricia the guy? Just try to answer some of these questions here.
Well, I think that's yet to be determined. I think, the last 4 games are going to decide maybe a little bit of that. This is year 2 of Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. You can argue, is that enough time? When you're trying to change a culture, when you're trying to change a roster, when you're changing schemes and trying to get players to fit those schemes, is 2 years enough? I think that's just going to be a decision, owner Martha Firestone Ford's going to have to make, and the Ford family's going to have to make. I would be inclined, if it was me, potentially give him another year. I think 3 years when you're talking about a regime change, when you're talking about getting your coach in, getting your schemes in, fitting the players to match that, I think you need 3 years. But again, who knows what's going to happen, how impatient the Ford family is. I know Mrs. Ford really wants to win, and so if she decides that this isn't what she views is a winning formula, then she's shown in the past that she isn't afraid to make a change. And so I think we'll just kind of have to see when January rolls around kind of where the Ford family's at.
It's been such a weird season for Detroit. Amidst the season, the Lions play just good enough to lose a lot of times. You lose to 4 against Kansas City. You lose by 1, kind of get jobbed by the refs in Green Bay. Then they lose by 7 to Oakland, 7 to Chicago, 3 to Washington. You lose your quarterback. Amidst all of that, what are some of the bright spots that the Lions can take into next year, whether that be player-wise, scheme-wise, whatever it may be?
Well, I think if you look at the Lions season, and you mentioned it there, I mean, they've led in every game they've played this year. Only San Francisco and Kansas City and Detroit can say that. And, obviously San Francisco's 10-2 and Kansas City's 8-4. So the difference there is they have found ways to make those 1 or 2 plays that make the difference in close games. And that's been the biggest problem for Detroit. And they've been in every game, like you mentioned. I think you can take a positive from that. I think another one is, how the offense has continued to play well despite Matthew Stafford going down. Darrell Bevel, the new offensive coordinator here, was really able to adapt, scheme to Jeff Driscoll's strengths, more of an athletic quarterback, a running quarterback. Well, now he's on IR with a hamstring injury, so they're down to the 3rd-string quarterback, and all he does is throw for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns in his NFL debut, a drafted guy out of Purdue. And so I think that's maybe one of the positives you take is that this offense has been able to kind of continue to roll on. Bo Scarborough, second year out of Alabama, the running back, he's been terrific the last 3 weeks. The Lions have averaged 133 rushing yards and 4.7 yards per carry with him kind of toting the rock as the lead guy the last 3 weeks. So offensively, I think you have to take that as a positive. I think you've got an offensive coordinator in Darrell Bevel that can, look at the guys he has, tailor, a scheme to their skill set and still, continue to put them in a situation where they can win games at the end. So